What wonderful, unique, special, amazing talents and characteristics do you embody in everything that you do? That's my question for you. What are your core values? What are your natural talents? Three questions already. Hope you're thinking about them. Sometimes that will sound like, hey, well, I'm this, I'm that, I do this, and I always do this. I do this in everything that I do. I love to do this. I show up like this in every area of my life, no matter what I'm doing, no matter what my career is. Maybe, I am this way in my job, in my home, and when I volunteer and do things, my projects, I show up like this. It's just naturally oozes out of me. What can you name some of those things? Can you name, I am someone who's always deep thinking. And sometimes that even includes, if you're into these things, like looking at zodiac signs. And I'm an Aquarius. I'm always going to be thinking outside the box. I'm very innovative. Like everything that I do, I got to think beyond what people see. Maybe you're a water sign. I'm always thinking about other people. I'm so emotional and I love, love, love. And maybe you're my fiery. It's like, oh yeah, I'm always adventurous and I always got something to say. You know what I mean? I'm very outspoken and very charismatic and very extroverted. Those things like that, even thinking about human design. So a lot of us already know exactly who we are. We've done the research on ourselves and we're really good at what our identity is and who we are, how we show up, and how it shows up in everyday things, whether we recognize it or not. So what is your identity? And the reason I ask this is because your kingdom that you're building has the overarching theme of you. What do I mean by that? Everything you do is expanding your kingdom. So let me back it up. And if you're new here, welcome to Inner Journey Oracle. This is day number 3 of Insights and Divine Guidance. Hopefully you get something from this. I know you will if you've been guided to listen to this message today. Where did this come from? I'm gonna tell you. I like to give you a bit of background and some, examples. So I realized that I was trying to separate who I am into different buckets, right? So let's say I'm trying to separate them into niches if you were to think about social media, or let's say you're thinking about streams of income and you're thinking that, I'm going to do this, but then this other thing is totally separate and this other thing is totally separate. Like imagine you having 3 different streams of income and you're thinking it's completely different things. And then I realized today, oh my gosh, wait a minute, they're not that different. I'm showing up the same in all of them. I represent myself the same in all of them. And so the same way I show up here, it shows up when I'm teaching some of my high school kids. And it's kind of weird because I didn't peep that, wait a minute, the same way I have the value of teaching and being insightful, it shows up naturally when I'm doing something completely random. When I'm just talking to a friend and they have something to say and they want to get something out their chest and I'm just naturally listening and I automatically want to give advice, or, I'm a listening ear and I'm give them insight. Like it shows up even when I'm not even trying. And of course I intentionally do it here, but I wasn't seeing how my I am this identity shows up in literally every aspect of life. And I was sitting here separating it out, thinking that, I do this and I show up that way, and then I do this other thing and I show up a completely different way, and that's not true. So what I'm saying is the overarching theme of me or identity of me, I would say, is someone who is insightful, someone who's intuitive, someone who is a planner, is a researcher, can connect dots, and a transformer and an alchemist. Like I do that 24/7. And I would say that is what my kingdom is built upon. And the little streams or the little niches or the little avenues in which I express those things are not separate kingdoms. They're not separate things. They're almost like little neighborhoods or cities within the kingdom. So I want to give you a different metaphor. And so if you have ever played The Sims, and I'm sure everybody kind of knows what The Sims are, the game. And basically when you first get started, like base game, there's like 3 different worlds you can do. You have like Oasis Springs, you have Willow Oaks, right? And they have different characteristics. So, and then you have kind of like San Myshuno, which is kind of a city vibe. So you have one that's a city vibe, one that's a deserty vibe, and one that's kind of like a spring oasis type of vibe. And so the characteristics of each city is very different. So let's say the area that you want to build your world in is the desert, whatever. And so the characteristics when you go into that world is these houses are like starter homes. There may or may not be gyms, available for you to build. The plots of land are small. There may be 1 or 2 families already living there. There's characteristics associated with it, but each house or each area is still under, even though you can, go in and create a family and build your own house, and it can kind of have its own unique type of things, like your own little niche can have this little thing, it's still within the confines of the overall kingdom or city or area. Does that make sense? Right? So I was thinking that everything I did was its own unique thing. Like I was thinking, when I do X, I'm over here in this world. When I do Y, I'm over here in this totally different world. When I do Z, I'm in the city. You know what I mean? But in reality, what I'm doing is building a large kingdom, and everything is related under this one umbrella of my overall identity, my core values, who I say I am, who I believe I am, my natural tendencies, my values, my beliefs. Everything is funneled through that. So therefore, everything I do is naturally going to have the same essence. You know what I mean? So everything you do has the same essence and vibe, while you may be thinking that your work life and your romantic life and the things you do, your projects on the side, are different things or different vibes, or you show up differently to them. No, you don't. You think you might show up differently to them. They might have different outcomes. They may look different on the outside, right? You may have a home that looks like this and a home that looks like that, if we're going back to The Sims, but ultimately the same foundation is there. The same environment, the same weather, the same. I'm trying not to go back and forth about my examples. But your core essence of who you are is going to show up in every single area of your life. And so that means the things that you do are not as separate as you think they are. And so that means everything that you do is working together or building upon your total kingdom. So when you decide to add on another stream of income, you might be thinking that it doesn't necessarily belong. You may think it's super random or super out of the way, but it's actually a part of your kingdom. You're just expanding it, and it just looks different. It looks unique. Like you don't know necessarily how it fits, but like the universe and God already knows it fits. Like you really aren't able. I'm not saying you can't change your identity, but I will say I think you have natural abilities and talents that's just going to ooze out no matter what. And there's some things, of course, you can change and work on, especially if you don't like it. But that just might be, you might be changing how you express yourself. You might just be changing the paint color of the house. Like you might be changing one little thing, but the essence of who you are most likely will stay the same. I don't see myself changing myself from being a hardcore Aquarius, right, with a stellium. Don't see that happening. If you've ever taken like a Myers-Briggs personality test, every time I take it, I'm still an INTJ. You know what I mean? I'm still a human design projector, I do believe. No, a generator. See, hold up now. And even learning that about myself, I'm like, oh my gosh, you're right. And when I learn new things about myself, I'm like, wow, I could see how that has shown up since I was a child. But anyways, that's not the point. The point is the things that you do are not as separated as you think they are. The way you show up here is kind of the way you show up there. And I don't want to say that to be negative. I'm saying that I don't want us to look at the things that we do as completely total separate entities. I want you to see how, one thing is kind of connected to the other, or they do work in tandem somehow to fulfill or to build up your kingdom, the kingdom that you came here to build, that you are building. I just don't want you to look at it like, oh, I'm building one thing in this area of life, but the other thing is totally unrelated, because that lacks cohesion. You know what I mean? Like, that can make it feel like a tug of war. Like, oh, I'm being this way over here, but I gotta be that way over there. Like, no, actually, they work together. Not even together, but they complement each other somehow, or they're within the same realm somehow. But that somehow is because it's me. If I'm going to be the one who does X and Y and Z, there's going to be some sort of fabric or some sort of connector between all of them, because you're not different, not as different as you think between all of them. It might sound different when you are on this channel versus that channel. When you're on TikTok versus YouTube, it might be a shorter video over here and a long video over there, but the core essence of who you are is going to be obvious. Now, I wouldn't even say obvious, but you're going to be the same in some aspect or another, even if it may appear to be different on the outside. Hopefully that makes sense. So you're building your kingdom. And for me, understanding that I'm not building 3,000 different kingdoms, I'm building one, but I'm expanding it, is big, it's quite large. Your kingdom is probably quite large, especially if you're multi-talented and you have so many different interests and you're looking like, oh, I want to do this, I don't want to do that. Don't look at them as totally separate things. Look at it as, hey, maybe I'm building a new city in my kingdom. And of course, and I'm trying to give you one more example. So let's even say like, oh, I'm building a city over here on the east and a city over here on the west and another and two more cities. They're still under, let's say, the state level. I'm just trying to give you another example. Y'all know how I do. I love the examples, just so I can get into your mind visually about what I mean. And so the east side of the state may have a colder temperature or different characteristics. It might look different, feel different compared to the west side, compared to the north side, compared to the south side. You know what I mean? But it's still under the jurisdiction of the state. Like, you still all have to follow the same state rules, right? And so that umbrella would kind of be like, if we're talking about the state rules are you, your identity, who you are. What are your rules? What would you not accept? What do you never accept? What do you never do? I would never do XYZ. That would never show up in any of the cities that I create. None of the buildings I build. You'll never see me or hear me doing anything like that. Right? So your values, I feel like I'm yelling. Ooh, but that's a good point though. Because even sometimes your values will remain the same no matter what, is what I'm trying to say. But I would say even sometimes I will show up with a different tone. Like, sometimes I'll be more serious, sometimes I'm more goofy. And if you just want to go back and listen to like other videos, I encourage you to. You'll probably just hear how I show up a little bit differently depending on the topic. Sometimes I'm sleepy, sometimes I'm energetic, sometimes I'm coming like you need to, and sometimes I'm just more like calm and reflective and maybe this and maybe that. But I would say just because I might show up in a different mood doesn't mean that I'm no longer someone who's providing insight or trying to be a teacher and whatnot. Like, sometimes teachers are mean and sometimes they're nice, you know what I mean? So that's just for an example. And so you can see how things may look different. They may look separate. They may sound like they don't relate. Like, oh, I'm this way sometimes and that way sometimes. But like overall, your identity, who you are, naturally oozes out of you, or is naturally your core programming, or however you want to look at it. I don't want this to sound negative at all. I'm just saying that no, I just want to own it. Everything you do is connected to your, I would even say, core frequency, your main vibration, whatever you choose your identity to be. And sometimes you can change that. But I feel like a lot of times, especially if these are like your gifts and talents, I want to look at it more like that. The things you came onto this earth with, who you naturally are, what you naturally embody, the things that don't really change, the things that are natural. I lost my train of thought. I'm just saying, it's almost like saying your gifts will like shine through everything, or like your natural talents will shine through everything. Your core of who you are will shine through everything. And so that means everything you do, whether you think it's big or small or irrelevant, or, you know, something off to the side, you think I'm doing a random thing, like it's still going to come through. And so with that being said, everything that you do, everybody you communicate with, everything that you build up, every idea that you have is a part of your kingdom. And I want you to allow yourself to build your kingdom super, super large, expand, reach more people, start a new business, start another stream of income, and understand that it's all a part of your expansion and expanding. Isn't there like a Bible verse that's like you're supposed to expand on something? I don't know. Y'all let me know down in the comments. Sometimes I know Bible verses and sometimes I don't. I kind of curious to see like what I find if I Google it real quick. Let me do that for a hot second. Hold on. Okay, so before I read this, I want to preface this by saying that if we're thinking about every little thing we do, let's say every little stream of income as little and as separate and as just like, foundational and its own little thing, that mindset would mean like, you're kind of staying small, and you're staying small in separate areas of life. And that is not in alignment with expansion and growth and like kingdom building. If you're saying like, I'm building something over here on the east of the United States, and then I'm building something way over here on the west side, like, yeah, but it would be so much better if you were just, anyway, I'm not going to go there. Let's read this because it brings up Isaiah 54:2 if you're interested in any Bible thing. But I think this is interesting, so I just like to read this little AI overview. So because it gives me like the whole thing. So I'm going to wrap it up after this. Isaiah 54:2 is a verse that encourages believers to enlarge the place of your tent and let the curtains of your habitations be stretched out. Do not hold back. Lengthen your cords and strengthen your stakes. It symbolizes God's promise to expand his people, urging them not to fear or hold back, but to make room for future growth, blessings, and the inhabitation of new territories, both physically and spiritually. So kind of take back what I said about like, you're building over here and over there. It truly might feel like you're building totally random spaces. Like, why am I way over here and then doing something way over there and nobody can really track? Like, what do you mean you're in this space and that space? It doesn't make sense. But spiritually, it's connected. Of course, it makes sense. You're just not seeing how they are related to each other because physically they look so doggone different. The environment looks different. The people are different. Like, why am I over here talking to XYZ when I've been about ABC this whole time? Like, yeah, no, the physical might look kind of crazy, might look way different. But instead of thinking of them as separate, understand that your core doesn't change, and you're spilling out your natural energy, your natural I am into this space and to that one. So you're still growing your kingdom. Key themes and interpretations, and I'm gonna read these 4 bullet points. Enlargement and expansion. The verse uses the metaphor of a tent to represent God's people expanding their territory and making room for a larger population. I can see this now because I'm telling you, sometimes I'm doing this, I'm reaching a certain audience, but when I'm like with the kids, the audiences are kids, but I still kind of show up in a teacher type of essence. They're in a way that I'm kind of giving them the insights on life and guidance. Or when I'm with a friend, like the amount of people you reach in very different areas of life, you're still fulfilling almost the same mission. You're still operating within the rules of your kingdom, the values of your kingdom. You know what I mean? Hopefully that's making sense. So preparation for blessing. This expansion is a call to prepare for an abundant future, to lengthen the ropes to the new and strengthen the pegs so that the tent can withstand the coming expansion. Number 3, overcoming fear and shame. The verse directly follows Isaiah 53, which foretells Jesus' suffering and is part of a larger message of hope and restoration for God's people who had experienced barrenness and reproach. God's message is to not fear or be ashamed, as he is their redeemer and will bring about a new era of fruitfulness and blessing. Love it. Last thing, number 4, spiritual application. Interpretations often extend this to a spiritual context, suggesting that strengthening your stakes means deepening one's faith, stretching one's spiritual capacity, and rejecting smallness to make room for God's plan to unfold in new ways. Ooh, that's good, because sometimes you don't know how you about to expand. You don't know why you somewhere. It's like, hey, strengthen your stakes. Stretch your spiritual capacity. We ain't building on no small land no more. Anyway, okay, interesting. So if that resonates with you, let me know, and I'm gonna wrap it up right there because I didn't want to make this one as long as the other ones. But you're building your kingdom, and it's quite large. And everything that you do, there's not as much separation between them as you think. Who are you? Who have you always been? What are these core things and core values and core experiences and your identity that have been you this whole time, that you see ooze out of you in everything that you do? That is your I am identity, and that is the basis of your kingdom. Allow it to expand in all different directions and go into ways that you never thought, but don't think everything is separated, because it's not. Then it may, based off of worldly terms, look like, oh, I got to separate this niche from that one. It's like, well, if you have 5 different channels and you have 5 different niches and 5 different streams of income, yeah, people will say like those are all vastly different, but you know that your core essence is showing up in all 5 of them the same way. Maybe it just looks different. It maybe just sounds different. Maybe people interpret it a little bit different. But your core is coming through the same. And that is a wonderful thing. And keep on. Keep building, keep growing, keep expanding. And I want to kind of talk about how that relates to cohesion. You know what I mean? Like when your thoughts are all in alignment with the core identity, that helps with manifestation. Kind of getting into something else. I feel like I always want to introduce a new topic at the end of these topics. Let me know if that's something you'd be interested in hearing. How like, well, okay, if everything I'm doing, even if it looks kind of separate, is in alignment with my core identity, then that means everything I think, feel, act, and believe and do, even if it's a different random niche or doing something completely different than what I thought, it's still in alignment with my identity. That those cohesive thoughts, feelings, actions, and beliefs would speed up outcomes, whatever it is that you want, because there's no incoherence. Ooh, we're gonna leave that there. Y'all let me know how this resonated. Leave it down in the comment section. Thank you so much for watching, liking, sharing, and subscribing. This was day number 3 of Divine Insight and Guidance. I will catch y'all in the next one for day 4. Bye.